Hey, what's up? This is Scott with Level Up Tutorials, and today we're going to be talking about Fleet, which, if you're like me, considering that today is October 11th, 2022, you saw the news that Fleet has entered public preview. If you haven't heard of Fleet, it's basically JetBrains' next generation IDE. JetBrains behind WebStorm, amongst many other products that are IDEs for various languages. If you've been in the programming space for any amount of time, chances are you've seen JetBrains, you've heard about them, and perhaps you've used their products. They're largely known for having best-in-class refactoring tools, really great performance, and just really handy things for working in large projects. Many of these features make a lot of sense in other environments and other programming languages, but aren't necessarily full IDE things that we've had for web developers, JavaScript, TypeScript developers for a long time. Now, VSCode comes close. There's a lot of cool stuff in VSCode, but it doesn't have that same JetBrains pedigree of IDE features. So when I saw that Fleet had entered public preview, I'd bothered them to try to get a license for it before, but now that it's in public preview, you can now download it and use it, give it a try for free. So what I'm going to be talking about in this video is just a quick recap of my experience with it after using it for a little bit of time, and whether or not I think it's ready for usage, prime time, or anything like that. You can see that what's coming, these are things that are not featured in this yet. Not featured: API support and SDK for plugin authors. This is a big one and something that we'll touch on in a minute. Performance, the things will perform faster. I also noticed that, you might expect something like this to run pretty hot. I found my CPU usage in Fleet was way higher than VS Code. And to be honest, that's not great because VS Code isn't exactly known for performance. Also, themes and key maps. You can key map things, but there's only 2 or 3, or I'll show you 5 themes, and they're just okay. So if you're the type of person like me who likes their theme to be themed to match their stuff, it's also probably not for you. There's the default themes, and right now they're just saying, hey, you got them. It says they're working to add support for more themes, but it doesn't necessarily say, hey, you can go hog wild customizing your own themes. We'll see about that. Now, to get started, the first thing you have to do is download the JetBrains Toolbox app, which is to me, that's a thumbs down, because if I want to have an editor, I want the editor to download, right? I get that you have this whole plugin ecosystem, but with just like Adobe Creative Cloud, you have to download the Cloudbox app, then the cloud pulls in anything that you want, any sort of apps. And just like that, you have to do the same thing with JetBrains' Toolbox, even at the point where if I'm in Raycast, right, to open up my apps, and I type in Fleet, guess what shows up? Nothing. It doesn't show up. How do I have to open this? I have to go to JetBrains Toolbox. I have to open the JetBrains Toolbox, and then I have to, it won't even let me drag this thing. It pinned it to the top left, so I can't even show you. It's in my other monitor. Then I have to click Fleet public preview. I don't know if it's always going to be like that. I don't know if that's just the way it is, but it's kind of a rough experience. Okay. And again, I know this thing's in public preview. That's one of those things I don't necessarily see changing. So it's small, it's minor, but I don't love it. Let's get into the real world things that I have kind of just been a little frustrated with in my time of using Fleet. So Fleet does a really great job. When you first fire it open, it's nice. The interface is nice. It shows you the ability to open up a project, and it allows you to start what's called smart mode. And smart mode analyzes your code and provides you feedback and refactor advice and all sorts of cool stuff. Now, that sounds great in practice, but what I found in usage was it gave me an error like this, right? You hover over this, it says duplicated code fragment. I go ahead and I say Option Enter, because that's the hotkey for code actions, right? So in this hotkey, it says show all duplicates like this, which you would expect to say if this thing's giving you a warning saying that, hey, this code snippet's been used other places, maybe you want to refactor that. I said, that's great. That's something that VS Code doesn't do. Let me go ahead and do that. So show me all the duplicates like that so I can evaluate before making a decision on where to extract that or how to extract that. And I hit enter. It does nothing. There's no errors, there's no alerts, there's no exclamation points, nothing. Does nothing. So who knows if that's a bug? Well, I mean, it's definitely a bug, but who knows, like, is this not duplicated code? Maybe that's the bug, and this is a false positive on this error. Either way, there's no feedback to the user, and to me, I'm just left saying, all right, this is, I guess, whatever. There's a lot of great things, and you know what? I could touch on all of the wonderful things here too. Like if you wanted to specify this type explicitly, you can do that. And look, it gives me any. Despite the fact that tutorial has tutorial data here, it has a type already, and we're mapping through it. We have the type. You know the type of ID. So why is it giving this any? This should be able to say explicitly this is a string of array. So many strikes so far. and honestly, I thought that was going to work because I've used that elsewhere. So that was about to be one of the things that I said was a positive experience with Fleet. But unfortunately, it just straight up didn't work in the time that I went to show you what it did. Let's try it on this author one, because this users is type 2. There's a type here. You should know what author is equal to. So let's give this one a try, and hopefully this doesn't give me an any, and it does. Thank you very much, Fleet. So two strikes there. Okay. Let's talk about some other things that I found to be really frustrating with this app. Let's say, you highlight some text, and sorry if I'm using my mouse here, but let's say you're highlighting some text and you do Command F, right? You would expect find in file to auto-populate that search box, and it does. But let's say you do, let's grab some larger amounts of text. For instance, it told me that this bit of code was duplicated. So if this bit of code is duplicated, it would make sense if the code action doesn't work for me to want to perhaps find it in my code base, so that way I could confirm, right? If the code action didn't work, maybe a good option to find this duplicated line would be to search for it. So if I highlight this amount of text and I do Command Shift F to do find in your project, search in your files, it is empty. The text selected is empty. So what? I got to type all this in. I got to copy and paste it. So that's another strike. Obviously, like these are small things, but these are things that are going to completely interrupt my day-to-day usage. I know it's early preview, but so far a lot of the stuff has been like this, and it's been a little frustrating. Another one is it gives you this big play button, which you think, oh, cool, play button. There's debugging in here, just like in VS Code. So it's in Command R, or you can hit this button, and it says, okay, there's no command configuration. Let's create a configuration to run. And it gives you some options here. What type of command would I like to run? Well, you can run just straight up commands out of here. Granted, there is no JavaScript or TS support for debugging yet, which I was made aware of via Twitter. However, I couldn't find on their site anywhere that said that. So I said, okay, well, maybe to do that, you just need to use the command version of this. And that's nice. It gives you this. But I will say something here. The first time I loaded this up, it didn't give me any of these auto-completion options for my run file. So I was left with a file that looked like this. Okay, which is fine. It's fine. It's a JSON file, so it's not like you can have comments in here. I know VS Code has comment support in JSON, and so you could still do it that way, but normal JSON doesn't have comment support, so I get it, right? Either way, I go to their config page to learn how to write a command. And it tells you, okay, if you want to have a type of command, then it needs a name. So we can say like run site. And so at this point, this is still not good enough, because if you hover over this, it says expected property program, which granted the auto-completion did have program. But like I said, I didn't get auto-completion my first time, just straight up didn't work. So it says expected property program. But if you go to their own documentation in run configurations, and if we do a command find for program on this page, you will not see program as an option for any of their available keys. It's not in the documentation. So another strike, right? Because like I said, I didn't get that auto completion. So at that point, I'm left to say, okay, well, how do I even write a configuration for command? What is this expecting? It's apparently expecting a path to a file. Okay. The only reason I know that is because if you type in program here, it asks for a string. And if I say anything, it says path doesn't exist. Okay, so then it's expecting a path. Here's the path. The path is not a file. Oh, okay, it's expecting a path to a file. So I had no way of knowing that. Okay, this is going to seem like a lot of little gripes here, but to be honest, these are the kind of things that you'd hope might work. I'm going to go ahead and just preemptively delete this .fleet folder because I don't want it in my code base. Okay, so that's some things, okay? Let's take a look at another thing. This is a page.svelte file. No support. So no support for .svelte. That's fine. I bet it's in an extension. I bet it's in a plugin. Let's go to tools. Plugins, no such thing. Extensions, no such thing. Right now, and this is something that you would know if you went to their website, but you might not know otherwise. Right now, if we scroll down here, there's no plugin support. There's no language plugin support. So while there very well may be plugin language support, and there is going to be, so it's not like Svelte language support won't exist. It doesn't exist currently. So another check, can't use it. Just straight up can't use it. Does not recognize my files. Now, I know it's a public preview, but it does kind of feel like language support for commonly used frameworks and stuff like that should be here from day one. I just can't think of too many editors that would launch a preview without that kind of thing. So if this seems overly harsh on Fleet, I'm mostly just talking about me trying to use this thing this morning and then like hitting a brick wall, then hitting a brick wall, and then finding an error, and then finding another error. Let's even talk about another error. So I can't run and debug. Check. Can't do that. Okay, the terminal works fine. The Git stuff's really nice. It has baked in Git history. So if we head in here, you can see the Git commits is very VSCode-like, but the interface is a hell of a ton nicer. History, you get built-in kind of history timeline stuff in here. You can switch your branches. You can you get a lot of support for your Git stuff baked in. That's wonderful. I love it. You get these neat little drag and drop panels. That stuff's great. You get all these nice contextual menus. And I'm sorry for using my mouse. I know the keyboard shortcuts for these, but like you can access all of your tools nice and easily with Command T. But there are a lot of little things like go to, quickly navigate through your files. So every other text editor I've ever used, Sublime Text, VS Code, NeoVim, if you called NeoVim's a text editor, I guess. Any other system like this, you can do a fuzzy find, what's called a fuzzy find, where if you do a fuzzy find, let's say I'm looking for a page, it's going to let's say I look for plus and then space slug. Granted, the plus thing is a little weird. It's a Svelte kit convention, but you can see if I say plus and then slug, it searches fuzzy. It's a fuzzy finder. It finds the file based on the path and the file name, plus slug, right? And this actually is really nice because let's say I just wanted to look for I don't even have to type all of the characters and it's giving me what it thinks are the right ones, and even some that are like a little bit less finding. But with Fleet, it doesn't do that at all. In fact, if we do, I believe it's Command K to do a go to, and we do a plus and then slug, no files found. SLUG plus space SLU, nothing. In fact, I took to Twitter to ask this, and I believe a developer from Jetbrains, somebody reached out to me and said, to do that, you should say slug /plus, which does in fact work. But I gotta say, why? Why do I need that extra character? Is the plus doing some regex thing that I don't know about? My muscle memory at this point is totally baked in. Plus slug got there, right? And that's the thing, that's on me, right? But still, it's a fuzzy finder. Or I should say, this is not a fuzzy finder. I could type in slug space plus. I guess this works where it does find the word slug. What if I do SLU? Yeah, it looks like it works. So honestly, I don't know why it doesn't like the other way, which again, this is a nitpick because not many people are going to be looking for plus whatever. But at the end of the day, you want a fuzzy finder to find your files based on a really broad way of looking at them. And it's hard when it doesn't do that because you're given muscle memory patterns that you've established from every other text editor you've ever used. Sublime, Atom, VS Code, they fuzzy find these things, right? So that's just, that's a nitpick. So it is cross-platform, which is great. There are themes. Let me show you the themes that you can choose from. It's a bummer, again, that themes out of the box have such little support. You can't, but again, this is a preview. So, take it for that. I can't say that enough. You get dark purple, which great. I love a purple theme. It looks nice. I like purple. It's not my theme. Fleet gray, sync with OS. So you get a gray, you get light, you get a dark purple, and you get a dark. You get 4 themes, which is fine. It's a preview. I can't say that enough. But at public preview, you don't have access to them to release. Plugins coming soon, don't have access to them at release. Port forwarding, cool. You can have port forwarding baked into the IDE, which is great. But at the end of the day, for a product that's eventually going to be paid, prices to be determined later, it's going to have to bring a lot more heat than what it currently is for me to even consider thinking about paying for this thing. Because right now, I'm not even thinking about using it. I'm thinking like, I don't even want to continue trying it, let alone pay for it. And so once again, I'll say the line, Bart, it's a public free preview. I'm being harsh on it, but I'm being harsh on it because I really wanted to give this thing a try. And the fact that it's a public preview and I can't use it is a little bit of a bummer. And at the end of the day, that's all we want, is we want to be able to use these things. Another quick thing here is here's a pro. A pro of this is that the settings panel looks really great. You have your scoped settings, you can have your global settings, you can change things in here that are lovely. But if you scroll down on this page, it's a pro and a con. A pro being that there isn't much here, and a con that there isn't much here because this is all there is for your settings. Where if you contrast that to VS Code, which obviously is a more mature product, preferences, settings. Granted, this doesn't look anywhere as nice, but I feel like I could be scrolling on this window for the rest of the video, and it wouldn't hit all of the settings that exist in VS Code. So, day 1, public preview, Fleet. Should you use it? I'm going to say I can't recommend you using it today. I'm going to check back. I'm going to see in a couple months. I'm going to see what this thing's like. And hopefully it's still a free preview at that point when it's a little bit more ironed out. I was hoping because it's been in beta for a while, so I was hoping by the time it hit free preview or public version that people could actually try out, I was hoping that it would be a little bit more ironed out by now. At least have language support for things like Svelte, which it's a niche, right? It's a niche framework. But at the end of the day, it's still a framework that people are using. It's JavaScript based. There are language support exists for Svelte in every other editor I've ever tried. So will I be continuing to use Fleet? No, I'm going to close it momentarily after I finish this video, and I will not open it again for a couple months here. And hopefully by then some of the stuff's worked out. That said, do I recommend you try it? Sure. Yeah. One thing it shows in here, there's a lot of support for all kinds of languages, and it shows a JSX or a TSX file in here being supported really well. There's some neat things with multiplayer stuff, which I didn't get to try out. So if you use one of these languages in here that's listed in here, there's no reason not to try it. I think if you're running a Node application, it might be really nice to use. That said, I don't know if I would rely on some of those IDE editors. Like I said, that with the TypeScript stuff was a little rough where I wanted it to, explicitly type my code. It knew the type of the parent. It knew the type all the way down the line, but could not derive the type from that twice. So there's some rough edges. So if you want to try it, give it a try, mess around with it, see what it's like, see if you like it. I think I'll come back to it in a few months and see if it's a little bit ironed out. So my inclination is here to say it's not ready. It needs more time in the oven. And maybe by the time it's a little bit further along, I'll be willing to give it a run again and see if this could finally be the thing that knocks VS Code off of the top of the mountain. As always, this is Scott with Level Up Tutorials. Thank you so much for watching. If there's anything you would like me to give a try in this thing, you want to see this being used specifically, let me know. I can show you some other more intense things. Like I said, it just didn't, in my main application that I work in, it didn't work. So That's where I'm at. So the Jetbrains team, I'm very confident they'll figure it out because they have such a history of really well-made applications and products that are really, really good. So people seem to love them. And, honestly, I hope Fleet gets there because Fleet looks great and it could be the next IDE that I'll spend a lot of time in, just not yet. Thanks so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one.